It's a new piece from Racket News, and it's from Matt Taibbi. He's an independent journalist. And he warns that Anthony Fauci was, quote, a warm-up dictator, saying this: he institutionalized the purposeful lies, suppressed critics, mastered emergency politics. Anthony Fauci gave the next monster a playbook. Matt Taibbi isn't talking in general terms. He's talking specific about what's been discovered in the months after the pandemic. Matt, welcome back. Tell me about the proximal origins. What's been discovered over the last few weeks that made you say something as bold as that?
Well, this has been a story that's been in the works for months now. The first stage of it came when communications between the authors of a Nature Medicine paper called The Proximal Origins of SARS-CoV-2 came out. These were the first scientists who said that the disease most likely had a natural or zoonotic origin and that lab escape was unlikely. We later found out, through, among other things, through these papers and through the emails, that Anthony Fauci was intimately involved with the crafting of that paper, and moreover, that the authors of that paper actually had very strong suspicions that it came from a lab, and they had to get over those feelings to write that paper. But more recently, we learned that Fauci brought that paper and may have even brought one of the authors of that paper to the CIA to talk to the CIA analysts. He also went to the State Department and to the White House, and essentially was trying to suppress inquiry into the origins of COVID.
So the first White House or the second? The Trump White House and the Biden White House, correct?
Right.
And,
yeah.
And you know what's also interesting, Matt, is the CIA still hasn't made a decision on where it came from, but the FBI did. It likely came from a lab leak. And now we find out he visits there. And what stands out for you about that? So this obviously is a problem when our most respected scientist is out there putting his hand on the scale as we try to find out the origins of a pandemic that's killing millions.
Yeah, and Brian, this is such an important point because multiple sources told us that the reason that the Department of Energy and the FBI came to the conclusion, they both issued reports saying that lab escape was the most likely explanation for COVID, was because they used their own analysts, they used their own researchers, and did not use anybody from the health bureaucracy. They didn't use anybody from the NIH or the NIAID. So because they did an independent investigation, which is exactly how you should do intelligence, they came to their own conclusions, which is not apparently what Anthony Fauci wanted. And that's key. I mean, without that kind of system, without the independence, you're not going to come to the correct conclusion.
So this is my analogy. You don't have to join it. But it's like a huge crowd watching a tree fall in the woods, hearing it, but denying they heard it. And you're the only one who would write this, and you can't believe outside the Wall Street Journal and the Oversight Committee that people aren't just jumping on this because it's not something that should be partisan.
Right. I mean, we published this in Racket, and we co-published it with Michael Schellenberger and Alex Gutentag over at Public as well. We were some of the same people who worked in the Twitter files. We've gotten used to at this point being ignored on some of these stories, but this story has nothing to do with partisan politics. This is strictly about getting to the bottom of a still open major news mystery, which is how did this thing happen? And there's still no official explanation, and nobody seems to be on the case. And it's just baffling, Brian. I just don't understand why nobody wants to look at this.
I do. Our audience does. Matt, thanks so much. We'll keep reading it, and I'll talk to you on radio later. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right, we reached out to Dr. Fauci for comment, but did not hear back, and I'm shocked. Give me a second. Now I feel better.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.